ABSC. So today we're going to talk about a topic that is, I know, central to everyone's discussion in our industry and always has been, and it's the idea of turnover and retention of our staff. So if I had to pick one challenge in our industry, the thing that plagues everyone, that's the most difficult thing to figure out how to deal with or how to navigate, it's employee retention.
Yeah,
It's,
that's right.
It's the bear that makes our industry harder maybe than it otherwise would be.
That's right. That's right.
And so if we're able to improve this, I think we have a lot of chance of improving your business as a whole, like the ease of doing business.
That's right.
Quality of life for your managers, less revolving door, so hopefully higher customer retention
Yeah.
rates, all that stuff. So let's look at employee turnover. Maybe tell us, what is employee turnover and how do you calculate it?
Yeah.
First.
Yeah. So I just to try to get a definition, I went to the Society of Human Resources Management, SHRM, and they have a definition that says the turnover rate is simply the rate at which employees are moving through your organization. And so the turnover rate then is calculated by the number of separations, for instance, in a month by the average number of employees you have in a month. So it's a pretty simple calculation. So for example, if you have 100 employees and you have 75 employees leave, then your turnover rate would be 75%. That would be more like an annual number. And so it's pretty straightforward to calculate that number.
Yep.
So at France, we look at this number, a couple of things. We look at the number on a monthly basis. So we're looking at, and our monthly numbers are around 8.5% to 9.5%. So we're checking that on a monthly basis. We also look at it by region. So we're trying to pinpoint, do we have a particular problem someplace? And then we also look at it by customer. And so we can look and see, is there a particular type of customer, or is there a particular leader? Is there something going on in that customer, so that we can do that? And so then lastly, what we do is we forecast turnover. So our current turnover, France's current turnover rate is setting at about 92%. We're forecasting it to be just a little bit above 100. Yeah.
And that we sort of hovered plus or minus 10% from there for quite some time.
That's right. That's right.
And it's a number that we're pretty engaged with and want to see reduced. And,
That's it.
And we're pretty motivated
Yeah.
to make that happen.
Yeah, and I would tell you that I would say the type of customers you serve impacts that a bit. Our highest turnover is in our manufacturing sector, and so if you're going to serve manufacturing customers, it just tends to create more turnover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe what's some of the stuff that causes turnover?
Yeah.
I mean, you sort of mentioned a little bit, potentially customer type.
Yep, that's right. So I went back to SHRM. They did a survey, which I thought was really good, and they asked all these HR professionals what are the causes of turnover, and they had a top 5. And number 1, no surprise, is compensation.
Okay.
And so people, just the compensation not being enough.
Okay.
Secondly is the opportunity for advancement or a career path. And I think there's some of that in our industry. I don't think that's as prevalent, especially on the cleaner level, but it's there.
I agree.
Thirdly would be schedule flexibility.
Okay.
That came out of particularly out of COVID, that really ramped that up. People working from home and those kinds of things. Unsustainable workload, and so that's I think that relates to us as well.
Okay.
And then number 5 was just uncaring leadership. And so as I reflect on what causes turnover in our business, I think those are the 5 that line up pretty. Yeah, I mean those are the things that cause turnover in our business for sure.
Yeah, that's very good. So let's shift over real quick to retention and maybe how
Yeah.
that's a little bit different, and then we'll maybe close this out by talking about some things we can do.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about retention.
Yeah.
What is
So here's a simple definition: it's just an organization's ability to retain its employees. I mean, it's pretty similar. And employee retention and employee turnover are similar but different. Now, here I would say it this way: employee turnover is the portion of your workforce who leave during a time, and employee retention is the portion of your employees who stay with you.
Right. Yep.
And so the calculation is you take, it's a pretty simple calculation too, is you divide your total staff with more than 1 year of experience with your organization and just divide it by the number of employees that you have at the end of a period.
Okay.
And so let's go back to 100. Let's say at the end of, you have 100 employees, and at the end of the year, you have 30 people who have been with you over a year. then your retainage percentage would be 30%.
Okay.
Okay. And
Okay.
so from our standpoint, we're sitting right at, so we've got about 550 employees right now. I just checked before we came down here. There's 325 of those people who were with us this time last year. And so that equates to about a 59% retainage rate.
Yep. And so the churn of that other group will determine how high or low the
That's
overall
correct.
turnover rate is
That's
for
right.
the organization.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. That's right.
So as we look at maybe trying to improve these numbers, we would love to see the retention rate go up. We'd
Yep.
love for people to stay longer.
Yep.
We'd love for the churn to reduce significantly. So
Yep.
what are some things that may help in doing that?
Yeah. So let's point at compensation because that's a big one. I would tell you that compensation is a strategy and it ought to be thought of in that way in anybody's organization, not just our industry. And in our case, it's really important because so much of the cost of our proposed price is in labor. And so I think that a couple of things. I think pricing deals correctly from the get-go with the right pay rates is important. But secondly, having a strategy to serve customers well so that you can go back to them and ask for increases to give your team members raises. And then lastly, just being in tune with what people are getting paid in your market for similar type jobs, not just janitorial, but other jobs that our team members might be looking at.
Yeah, so that deals with the pay part. So, but we always have a little bit of a threshold there.
That's right.
And we're always going to be competing against people that can pay more
Right.
for the team members we have, but that might work in another industry. So,
That's
what
right.
are there any other things that?
Yeah. So one of the things it talks about in here is leadership, the people you work for. And so I would say one of the key things is as you're seeking out leaders who will be leading janitors and even leading, even the organization, but especially with cleaners, you need to have someone who has, or these leaders need to have empathy. I mean, a lot of our cleaners, as we all know, are struggling with things in life. And so someone who has empathy, but enough to hold somebody accountable. And that's sometimes hard to find. And so it seems to be that there's some people that have too much empathy and then there's people who have not enough.
Yeah.
And so training your leaders to find that balance is really important. So finding people who have empathy and then training people to utilize that.
Yeah, and to say it in a little bit more of a sentimental way, like the more that the manager loves on and cares for the people on their team, yet in a healthy way holds them responsible,
Sure.
the more likely those people are going to be satisfied and want to stay.
That's right. Yeah, one more I would just add real quick is work expectations. I would encourage you to keep an eye on those things. So if you've got an account that's got a lot of turnover in it, there might be some people who are there who are having to work a lot of extra to take it to account for the people who are out. So that's having a strategy to say, hey, we've got these floaters who can jump in and help so that somebody doesn't get burned out with too much work.
That's very good.
Yeah.
That's good. This is helpful. So hey, listen, if you need any more additional resources on this, maybe how to calculate this stuff, I know sometimes it can be confusing with these numbers and the difference between them. We're here to help you with that. Feel free to reach out to us. I'd also encourage you to get on to the Elite BSC website, to the member login. And there's video content and a bunch of other written content and articles and stuff that talk about this topic on there under the HR section. So if you're looking for some more stuff to do a deep dive, you can find that here. So Jeff, appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.